today we're going to be talking about the exact strategy that our team at the CMJ Group uses to launch communities from scratch. So this is stuff that is not only relevant to those who have never built a community before. Yes, it's relevant for you, but it's also relevant if you have already launched a community and you're thinking about, what did I miss? Or what can I be doing better? How can I optimize what I have already created? So both scenarios are covered here. And I just want you to know that even if you have launched, it's not too late to make improvements. In fact, it's never too late to make improvements to your community. So that's what we're going to be going into today, are these steps that we use to launch communities. And we have learned this from years and years and years of research, as well as experience in the field, experience professionally doing this on a regular basis. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build and launch a community from scratch. We're just so excited to be sharing this with you. And if you have not already heard me talk about it, I've been talking about it a lot lately. We just released a brand new workshop about how to create the thriving community of your dreams. So this is something that is brand new, freshly updated with our latest research, with our latest examples of our work. And this is all about how to create that community. So even if you are brand new to this space, or if you have been doing this work for a while, you're going to learn the exact strategy that we use. So that workshop is brand new. It is now available. If you missed it just now, I'll be sharing the link in the description of this video once we're all done here today. So hi, everybody. Hello, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you might be in the world. I sat in my chair and I just drifted off. Tokyo drift with my office chair. Okay. I've had coffee this morning. So yeah, hi. I know you're here today because you care about communities. So that means that we're friends, because I also really, really care about communities and care about building specifically digital communities, but also in-person communities. And where those two intersect is really where I really love to spend a lot of my time. But I know that building a community can be a really confusing endeavor because it seems like there's just constantly work you could be doing. You're never sure exactly how much time you should be spending, if it's even worth it. And I actually I was checking threads, and this entrepreneur had just shared that launching her membership community was her biggest regret in her business. And I was like, oh, like, how is that even possible? Because what I'm about to teach you means that even if your membership community, for whatever reason, like the pricing isn't right or something else, and you need to make changes to it, regardless of what happens, you're going to learn, you're going to have fun, you're going to be more connected to your clients and customers. It's going to be a good experience for you, no matter what you do. It will not be a waste of time and money. So that entrepreneur, I feel for her, and I've seen it many, many times. And I don't want that, because communities are so, so important, not just for our businesses, but for us as human beings. So hi, for those of you who don't know my work, I am Carrie Melissa Jones, and I am a social science researcher, community strategist, and consultant who helps all kinds of leaders, from political leaders to organizational leaders to creators and small business owners, build online communities that are impactful and meaningful and joyful for them to run. So I'm excited to be sharing some of our wisdom, our team's wisdom, with you today, and really get into that. And again, our workshop is available now if you want to dive even deeper into what I'm going to teach you today, because this will only be for about 20 or so minutes. This is about an hour-long workshop where we give you really like the 6 structures that you need in place in order to build this thriving community that you maybe are dreaming about today. So make that a reality. So let's begin. Let's begin with the exact strategy that we use as consultants when we come in and work with a client and they say, I have this dream of building a community. I know it's something that I want to build because I've been in business for several years, or I have a passion that I'm really wanting to gather people around, but what do I do from here? So step number one is always talk to your people. Talk to your people. I see people skip this step all the time because they just want to say, okay, well, I have this dream in my head that I've come up with, and I am making all kinds of assumptions about who it's going to serve and what I'm going to do in it. And then I'm going to make it live. And then When people don't show up on day one, I'm going to get so discouraged that I'm going to shut it down, or I'm going to do it for 6 months or do it for a year and burn out and then close it down. That's not what we want. So start by talking to people. It will take a few more weeks on the front end, but it will add years and years and years of longevity to what you're building on the back end. And if you have already launched something and have not done this, it's okay. Do it now. The reason why I'm actually doing this series of YouTube lives is because I'm in Jamar Diggs's YouTube, his Low Lift Club community on Circle. And he's actually going through and doing these interviews and talking to people now after he's launched his membership. Totally fine. He's going to learn all this stuff. It's going to make his membership even more amazing than it already is. So it's never too late to talk to people. And when I say talk to people, I mean talk to them one-on-one. Schedule time with them, ideally in person, if at all possible, but second to ideally on a Zoom call or some other kind of video chat, because trust is built faster when we can actually see each other's faces. You're going to be able to create more of a connection in that space versus getting on the phone or just DMing them on Instagram. The richer the media is, and this comes from research, the richer the media is, the faster we can build that relationship. Typically in a text-based conversation, it takes at least 6 times as long to build that relationship. So we really, really want to speed things up as much as we can without shortcutting the actual work that it takes to build a relationship. So you're going to talk to people. You are going to talk to maybe your existing clients, maybe those who you really want to make sure are in the community, but you're not sure if they would join. You're going to get on a call with them or meet up with them for coffee, and you're just going to get to know them. You're just going to get to know them as whole human beings. And there's 2 things that you really want to be listening for when you're doing these conversations. Number 1, you want to be listening for what kind of progress do they want to make? What is the change that they want to see either in their own lives, in their own businesses, or in their communities, or in the world at large? And then 2, who are the people that they want to meet on the way to making that progress? Or if they don't know the answer to that question, who are the types of people, or what are the types of resources and the types of people who could provide those resources that will help them make that progress? Because there are many, many ways that we make progress in our lives. We can take a class online, we can watch videos on YouTube, we can show up and practice if it's a sport, practice a sport alone every day. But community is about practicing and showing up with other people. So it's about progress that is enabled by social connection. So if we understand what social connections people want to be making and what kind of progress they want to have, then you are cooking with fire, okay? So that's what we really want to understand when we're talking to people. Now, people often say, I was just talking with one of my mentees this last week, and she was saying, how many people do I need to talk to? Because I don't have a lot of time. We just have a few weeks. And I said, about 10 people. And she was like, wait, like 10 per customer type, or like 10 per, 10 per segment of the market? No, 10 people. You only need to talk to 10 people. That is not a hard and fast rule, but what you are looking for is what's known as saturation. So you're looking to hear the same things over and over again, and talking to 10 people is typically where you start to notice some really obvious patterns. Now, you could talk to 20 people, you could talk to 50 people, you could talk to 100 people. If you have that kind of time and energy, I invite you to do so. But what I have found over and over and over again is that around that 10 people mark is where you start to notice these patterns, and you start to see things coming up again and again. And that's going to be the most obvious and low-hanging fruit. So that's really where you want to spend your time. If you bring in too much data, it's really overwhelming and you're not sure what to do with all of it. So let me just check for any questions. Yay! Yes, Jamar is doing member interviews. Yay, Jamar. Hi. So that's number 1. Talk to people. Do not skip this step, as I said, because you will save yourself a few weeks at the expense of years, and at the expense of regrets and other things that just we don't have time for that BS. We don't have time for that regrets and all that stuff. So just take the time now. And this is where I started saying, no matter what happens with your community, you're going to learn and benefit from it. This is where that work begins, because no matter what happens with your community, these relationships that you're building are going to be important to you no matter what, whether they become your personal friends or somebody that you talk to when you come up with like maybe they're really into pickleball, and then like every time you see pickleball on television, you're like, oh, I'm gonna message this person. Like it doesn't matter what it is, it's going to enrich your life. Okay, so this is where that work begins, and it starts here. This is where we start with our client. Talk to people. That is step number one. Step number two, then now we can move on to step number two. What do we do with all that information? We're going to create something called a community compass. That is a structure that we teach inside of the CMJ community, which I welcome all of you to join. I see some of you, Jamar included, Will, who's here right now. You are members of this community. We teach this structure in detail in the CMJ community. It's also going to be in the workshop that I share at the end of this. And if you would like to find out more about that, go to carriemelissajones.com/community, and you can find out more. We currently have a 7-day free trial on that will be turning off in the next few weeks. So just, you want to get in there now. So what is the community compass? I'm going to teach it to you at a very high level today. So I'm actually going to share a very quick overview of what it looks like so that you have a visual to refer to, because that's always important. I'm a visual learner myself. If someone's just talking at me like I am doing to you, I take in about 5% of it. So I feel you. And if you just have this on in the background, then that's cool too. I think you do learn by osmosis sometimes. All right. So let's see. Here is our community compass. You should now be able to see this on your screen. So what this is, it's a 3-part framework as well as values. So it starts with this 3-part framework. Who do we gather? What is the shared identity of our members? What do they have in common? What are we here to do? So what are we going to do? What are the activities that we're going to do? What are the focuses that we're going to all have together? And then our why, or our so that. Why are we gathering? Why is this important? So if you can answer these 3 questions very succinctly, very effectively, then again, you're cooking with an even bigger fire, okay? So this is what is going to help clarify and create something really specific and niche that is going to then resonate with your people. So there are thousands, millions of communities people can join. This is what makes yours unique and special. So here's an example of a community compass statement. Now, you would never, ever write this as one long run-on sentence, but you can see how there are the pieces of this, and I'm going to break this down in just a moment. You can read this on the screen, how this actually breaks down into the 3 pieces that I just taught you. So here's that statement then broken down into the compass framework. So who we gather, what is their strong shared identity? In this case, it's leaders who blend focus with playfulness. That is not every leader. Not every leader wants to blend focus with playfulness. Some leaders are very serious. Some only want to focus on play. So this is a very specific audience. Leaders who blend focus with playfulness. Now, what are they here to do? There's 3 things that this community builder is calling out. They're going to follow a structured path together. They're going to practice those new skills that they learn along that path. And they're going to connect in a judgment-free space. It is very hard to find judgment-free spaces for leaders in today's world. So these are the 3 things that we're here to do together. Anything that falls outside of this is nice to have, but is only going to be distracting to your purpose. So this is great because when you're building a community, there's 50 million things that you think, I could do this, I could do that. And oh my gosh, all these shiny things. Great, but you've got to stay focused yourself. So if it's not one of these things, hold off for later. You can always change this compass later, but you want to keep it here and focus and really, really make your offering as clear as it possibly can be. And then the so that, or the why. In this case, it's so that these leaders can make a difference in the systems that they're part of. So not all leaders care about this. Some leaders want to get ahead in the corporate environment. Some leaders want to save the environment. This is about changing systems at the systems level. And so again, very specific, very, very specific. This is what we want to get to. Really specific audience, really specific activities that we're going to do together, and then a very specific why or so that statement that is galvanizing to you and to your members. So this is what the compass statement or the community compass framework looks like, what it is. I'm going to stop sharing that now. because the next piece of the compass is about values. So values are simply principles by which you make all decisions. And I think if you have really clear, strong values, they are the single most important decision-making tool you can have as a community builder. So we have 4 values in the CMJ community and the CMJ group as a whole, and we check these values all the time. They include compassionate candor, equity, equanimity or balance, and relationality. And if anything that we're thinking about doing does not align with those values, then we don't do it, or we change the way that we're approaching it. This is always, it's a touchstone that we come back to over and over and over again. And again, this is about creating focus for yourself, because there are bajillions of ways that you can build community and ways you can show up. These are going to be, this is the compass that's going to teach you how to go and which direction to go in. So a lot of creators, business owners come to me and they have never done this level of strategic work before. And they've just been kind of throwing stuff at the wall. And they're like, wait, there's a structure and a framework for this. Like, I don't have to just guess what I'm supposed to be doing from here. And this is it's a very freeing framework for you. Even though it's creating that structure is actually opening up all kinds of creativity for you. So having that in place is just so important. And again, we teach this in depth in the workshop that I shared with you earlier, as well as in the CMJ community. There's a whole section just on community compasses and values and helping you get those really clear, because they are so important. So I'm curious to hear from those of you who are in the community or who have a community today or are thinking about building one. What do you think that your community's purpose is? Like, why do you think it exists? And what makes it different from what else is out there? And who do you serve? Is that audience really clear? So I would love to hear about that from any of you who are here right now. Just let me know like who you're serving and why you care about serving them so much. And then also, if you're watching the replay of this, let me know that in the comments of this, because I am always fascinated. There was somebody who just reached out on YouTube and said, like, I build a community of scientists who study some word I can't even pronounce. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but it's so cool that like these structures can help people across all these different spectrums, from healthcare to their local neighborhood communities to creators and small businesses building just anything and everything. Like, these structures work. And so it's so cool to see that. Amazing. So next step, you've gone through steps 1 and 2. You've talked to your people. You've got a really clear framework for your strategy. What is step 3? Step 3 is where you can start to think about, who do I want to co-lead beside me? So when we are working with a client, we always ask them, who are the 10 people, at most 10 people, who you would not want to run this community without? Who do you want to be beside you as you lead this community? Because building a community is not a solo endeavor. It's not something that should be done entirely in a silo, entirely alone. I don't care how you get out of that silo, whether it's through joining a community membership like ours, or it's through having really strong co-leaders in your community. It's crucial to not build it alone. Otherwise, we're just recreating the same structures that are leaving us feeling like we're not unresourced and lost to begin with. So co-leadership is a concept that I hold near and dear to my heart, because I have personally burned out and multiple times in my career, and I've talked about this a lot before. And having co-leaders alongside me has saved me from burnout ever since my last horrible period of burnout. And so your co-leaders, or they're also often called founding members. That's what I often refer to them as, because they're typically those who you found the community with, but not always. They are the people who you can turn to when you say, this thread is a ghost town. Nobody's responding to this thread. I'm going to email person 1, 2, and 3 and say, hey, can I count on you to respond to this thread? There are people who will actually step up for that. There are people who will say, yes, I'll be there at your live event. I don't care what it takes. I will be there. And I will support you through that. There are people who might even want to take on formal volunteer roles. Yes, I'll moderate alongside of you. Yes, I will watch your community with you and see what I would recommend, what improvements I would recommend to make. Now, in the earliest of early days, this relationship does not need to be formalized. But I will tell you, as someone who has been building community for a long time, that over time, having just these really nebulous kinds of relationships can get really confusing. So these roles do need to be formalized over time. But today we're just talking about the strategy for launching and creating your community from scratch. So that is not something you need to worry about if you're on day one. If you're more advanced, then you should be part of the CMJ community, and we should talk about it. Okay. Awesome. I see some folks who have shared their community. So Sarah's my first draft on the spot. We gather strategic rebels to externalize, organize, and achieve their goals to create the transformational systemic change only those of us who think differently can. Wow. Dang. I love that. Strategic rebels. Yes. And I know you do, I think you do like OKR coaching and goal setting and different things like that, Sarah. Yeah, I can definitely see that. These rebels, people who want to be standing out from the crowd, but who are strategic about it. They're not just doing it just to be a rebel. They're doing it because they see a better path forward. And then the things that they're doing together, externalize, organize, and achieve their goals. So externalize, that's really interesting. I would love to know kind of what that would entail for you. It sounds like it's probably about documentation and writing it down and making it public and getting accountability. And then organize is like, okay, now I have these goals, they're written down, but when are they going to happen and who's going to do them and who do I need to work alongside me? And then to achieve them, you could then have it be a place of sharing those achievements, celebrating them. You can create rituals around, at the end of each quarter, what are we going to say happened this quarter? What are we going to celebrate? And so you can start to see how with Sarah's here, there's these 3-2 statements that's going to help her to start to think about what are the programs we're going to run? So what are the programs we're going to run to help people externalize? What are the programs we're going to run to help people organize? And then what are the programs we're going to run to see, this is where I would change this here is instead of just achieve their goals, it would be like celebrate the achievement of those goals. Or maybe you don't believe in celebrating the achievement of those goals. Maybe you're like, just mark them. I don't know. Every community is totally different. So you have to tell me. But yeah, so then creating those programs around those things. And then this is about systemic change and celebrating those who think differently. Yeah. So I would just crisp that up and like define a little bit about like, what does that transformational systemic change entail? Is it about changing their organizations? Is it about changing the systems that their organizations are part of? That kind of stuff. So yeah, that's really good. And the fact that you just wrote that like on the spot is awesome. So you can see how just like writing these things down, even just getting a draft out there is so clarifying. Yes. All right. We got some more. Oh my goodness. Okay. Gabe or Gaby, to give people a space where they can find genuine friendships and feel free to be themselves. I love that. That makes my little community builder heart sing. So I would just say here, like, what is people? Who are the people that you're giving a space to? Get really specific on who that audience is and what their shared identities are. And then you could just have 2 statements here to find genuine friendships and feel free to be themselves. So then again, you're going to ask yourself, okay, how are we going to help people find genuine friendships? And how are we going to help people create this space where they do feel free to be themselves and practice that? And because it is a practice, right? And keep showing up in this way. So that is awesome. And then, yeah, just creating like, what is the so that statement for that? And then William, we bring together digital strategists to help them monetize their skill sets online while making a difference by supporting other businesses. Very cool. So yeah, digital strategists. So I'm assuming, that is a big job title. You might want to get more specific about that. I'm not sure. When you talk to people, you will know. Think about what words they use to describe themselves. Is that a way that they would use to describe themselves? And then you're going to help them monetize their skill set. So I would break that up into 3 different kind of sub activities. So how are you going to help them monetize their skill set? Are you going to give them resources? Are you going to teach the system? Is this more about co-creating monetization and co-creating the path forward? And then you might do something around celebrating these milestones and things like that. So, and this is about making a difference by supporting other businesses. It sounds like you're kind of creating this whole ecosystem where people might be able to support one another. So that's super cool. I know for a lot of digital strategists, especially in the environment that we're in right now, it also is probably about like, so you can make money from your business, even if you feel like you don't know what you're doing right now. It's totally fine. We're all navigating this together. So yes, love those statements. Thank you so much for sharing those. I'm so inspired by all of you. So we were talking about step number 3, which is about bringing on your co-leaders, bringing on your founding members alongside you. So these are your ride or dies. These are your people that you're going to turn to. I have multiple videos about creating like your founding member groups, as well as finding your first 10 members. That's a video that I created with the help of Jamar Diggs. And so there's more resources on that specifically out there that I can send you to if you're looking for them, or just check out my YouTube channel and they're right there. So, okay, so you've got now your co-leaders, you've got the structure, you've talked to people. Now we set up the community. People are often surprised by this because they think like, oh, set it up first and then I'll do all this stuff. Now is the time to say, okay, I'm going to launch the thing, and I'm not going to overthink that launch. You have to promise me that you won't overthink your launch, because when you're just getting started, you're just in a learning mode. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to change almost every aspect of your community experience over the next few months. I can guarantee it. If you're doing a good job, you will change almost everything that you've launched with. So you're going to start with what we call radical simplicity. Truly, the more simple, the better. Strip back all of the complexity. Strip back all of the things that people are like, wait, what is that section of the community? Or what does that do? Get rid of it. Be radically simple about what you're doing. What I recommend here, launch with no more than 3 main areas of your community. If you can keep it 3 over time, then you are a rock star. But usually we start with 3, you can expand from there. So those 3 areas are a welcome or onboarding space that orients people to who the community is for and what they should do right when they join. Then a space for general discussion or off-topic discussion. So in our research with communities, we've found that these are the most active areas in any community, and you can always build general discussion and then segment from there over time. But you do not want to send people into 20 different subgroups on day 1, because you'll have a bunch of ghost towns. So instead, concentrate the conversation in one area. And then you can have topic-specific sections from there, or course-specific sections if you have a membership community that offers access to courses or resources. Okay. So those are going to be the 3 sections. Again, you can grow these over time. You can segment them over time. If you are an expert, you can break this rule and play around with it a little bit. But if you're a beginner at this, keep it simple. Your members will appreciate it. You will appreciate it for the simplicity of things, and that will help you to move forward. So launch with a good welcome process, launch with those 3 spaces, and launch with guidelines. That was the word I was looking for. Guidelines are rules. So people will probably not read your rules and your guidelines, but that doesn't matter. It's important that you just have them. That creates a sense of safety. It also creates a document that you can come back to. If anyone breaks any rules or breaks your agreements, you can go to them and say, hey, like, it's not cool what you just did. Here's why. It's actually written down. And referring back to that will be really, really important for you as a community builder and community manager. So that is just going to be so important. And do not overthink this. Do not overthink it. All right. So I've just walked you through 4 steps. They're not that complicated. They're really not that complicated. They're also really not that time consuming. You saw that people just created some really good starting community compass statements in 5 minutes. Like, great. So if you spend 2 weeks talking to people, if you spend 5 minutes, but ideally like an hour refining and maybe if you're part of the CMJ community, joining and asking for feedback and refining a little bit from there on your community compass statement. If you spend that time, then you talk to those, you can go back to people that you talked to in the early stages and say, hey, I'm going to launch this thing now that I talked to you about. And then you actually launch it and you invite them in. Then you've got your community started. That is the exact strategy that we use to help our clients launch their communities without overthinking it, without stopping themselves from making progress. This whole process, generally when we work with a client, takes about 6 weeks. Now, what I'll tell you is that if you're doing this on your own, this can take 6 months. It could take a year. It can never happen. I see a lot of people come to me and they say, hey, I have this community I've been dreaming about. And then I talk to them a year later and they're like, yeah, I haven't done anything. It's like, we could have figured this out for you within 6 weeks. And then you could have said at the end of the 6 weeks, yes, I want to keep doing this, or no, that was a dream that I should have let die. Like at least get that clarity. So that's the kind of that's the process that we walk folks through to do this really quickly, and then to iterate and grow and evolve and keep learning as you go. Because again, as I mentioned in the beginning, no matter what happens with your community, what I can guarantee you is if you use this process, you will learn. You will learn so much. You will make friends, which seems really cheesy and fluffy and fuzzy, but it is everything, especially as a business owner, to know that you have friends in this is crucial so that we don't start to feel isolated. There are very few downsides to building this in this way because you are going to be learning and applying everything that you're learning on a regular basis. So that's why we teach it this way. That's why we do it this way, because we're optimizing for serendipity. We're optimizing for all kinds of outcomes. Yes, we're optimizing for revenue generation. If you're creating a paid community, that's obviously important. We can run those projections with you. But what is most important for our business owners that we work with and our creators that we work with is that they feel happy and joyful and intentional about what they're creating. They feel focused and not depleted, because this is a long game. It's not something that's just one and done. Okay. All right, friends. So again, I wanted to share with you our workshop. It is available now. Like I said, it's completely revamped with new research and more of our recent work. And we walk you through the 6 structures that you need in place, the 6 components of a strong, thriving community. And so you can get that workshop. It's available right now. This is the first time I'm fully announcing it publicly, and I will be putting it on the other socials later, but you can be the first one to grab that. And for those of you who are like, I want support on this journey, I know I want that support right now, I want to invite you to join the CMJ community at carriemelissajones.com backslash community. You can join that community. Again, there's a free 7-day trial. We just ask that you don't join and then like steal all the content and frameworks and resources and use them. That's intellectual property theft. Please don't do that. Thank you so much. We have all kinds of resources for you. I want you to go on this journey with friends by your side. I want you to go on this journey with focus and energy. And yes, Jamar, I'm so excited you feel energized by this. Yeah, it can feel like building a community can feel like a slog if you don't have a great group of people around you to do it. And then let's see. Oh, Sarah said, I've been in community since the early internet. Think Telnet, BBSs, and Usenet, and today's content was so clear and helpful for me to overthink my community work. That's amazing, Sarah. Yes, we've been doing this work for a long time. I've also been building community since the early internet, and I came in around, oh my gosh, I'm like blanking on the names of them, IRC chats and all that stuff, or IRC. And yeah, I think we overcomplicate this and we think like community is this really nebulous concept, but in fact, there are structures and frameworks that if we have them in place, we can build in the magic and serendipity that we often associate with really great communities. It's possible to build those things into our communities, but if we don't know what they are, then it's very difficult to do. I also have a book called Building Brain Communities, which is over my shoulder, that if you have not read yet, I highly recommend that you check out. Came out in 2020, still very relevant today. We purposefully wrote it that way. All right, friends, I'm going to sign off. I want to thank all of you for your presence here today. Thank all of you for building communities. It's so very important. And yeah, I just appreciate all of you so much.